this hour. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz awards Distinguished Order of Dignified Rule of Mulighe Dynasty to CEO of Saudi Fund for Development, Sultan bin Abdul Rahman Al Murshid. And Government of Maldives strongly condemns the decision by Israeli occupation authorities to shut down 6 schools in East Jerusalem.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Abdullah Ahil. And now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz awarded the Distinguished Order of the Dignified Rule of the Mulighe Dynasty, ODRMD, Chief Executive Officer of the Saudi Fund for Development, Sultan bin Abdul Rahman Al Murshid, during a ceremony held at the President's office. The recognition highlights Al Murshid's exemplary efforts and the Saudi Fund's substantial contributions to the progress and welfare of the Maldivian people. President Muiz exercised his authority under Article 115 of the Constitution and Section 3 of the Maldives Honor Act to bestow this honor to the CEO of SFD, who is in Maldives for an official visit. Al Murshid's visit to the Maldives, which began on the 13th of April, exemplifies the enduring partnership between the Saudi Fund for Development and the Maldives. Since its creation, the fund has directed over $470 million into essential sectors such as healthcare, transportation, housing, and fisheries, leaving a lasting imprint on the nation's economic and social fabric. The accolade pays homage to the legacy of Al-Sultan Muhammad Shamsuddin, who reigned over the Maldives in 2 distinct periods and remains a cornerstone of the nation's history, marked by the initiation of the first Maldivian constitution, formally adopted in 1933. The Saudi Fund for Development, SFD, has strengthened its enduring partnership with the Maldives by providing a $18.61 million loan to accelerate the expansion of Velena International Airport.
The agreement was formalized at a signing ceremony at the President's office by Minister of Finance and Planning, Musa Zamir, while Chief Executive Officer of Saudi Fund for Development, Sultan bin Abdul Rahman Al Murshid, signed on behalf of the Saudi institution. With additional funding in place, the Finance Ministry has expressed optimism regarding the project's accelerated timeline, highlighting its potential to generate profound economic benefits for the Maldives. Upon completion, the Finance Ministry stated the expanded airport is set to transform the nation's connectivity by accommodating a greater number of tourists and airlines. This funding is projected to significantly bolster tourism and commerce, catalyzing growth in related industries. The ministry added that as a linchpin of the Maldivian economy, tourism sector is expected to further strengthen its contribution to the nation's gross domestic product. This collaboration builds on a long-standing relationship between the Maldives and the Saudi Fund for Development. Over the years, the fund has provided more than $470 million in financial support, spanning critical sectors such as transportation, healthcare, housing, and fisheries. The SFD's recent pledge of $150 million in May 2024 exemplifies its dedication to the Maldives' development. Of this total, $100 million was directed towards advancing Velena International Airport's expansion, reinforcing efforts to elevate tourism infrastructure. The remaining $50 million was allocated for healthcare development, a priority that includes constructing 3 hospitals to enhance medical services across the country. Since its establishment in 1974 by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, SFD has advanced its mission of fostering sustainable growth in developing nations. By facilitating access to soft loans and grants, the institution has channeled resources towards sectors integral to economic and social progress, including infrastructure, healthcare, education, and energy.
The Maldives has launched a new housing project with support from the Saudi Fund for Development, SFD, a key initiative aimed at tackling the growing demand for affordable homes. The $25 million project, officially initiated on April 14th, will see the construction of 400 housing units in Holomale Phase 2. The project was launched at a ceremony attended by the CEO of the Saudi Fund, Sultan bin Abdulrahman Al Murshid, and the Minister of Finance and Planning, Musa Zamir. The Ministry of Construction, Housing and Infrastructure is currently in the process of selecting a consultancy firm with the goal of breaking ground by the last quarter of this year. Officials described the project as a flagship partner of President Dr. Mohammad Muizz's housing roadmap. The administration says it is committed to providing sustainable and affordable housing solutions that will help reduce congestion in Male and improve living standards across the country. The Saudis' support reflect a long-standing developing partnership with the Maldives. To date, the fund has assisted 40 projects through 17 loans, totaling nearly $488 million. These have spanned key sectors such as housing, infrastructure, education, healthcare, and utilities. Looking ahead, President Muizz has declared 2025 as a turning point for the country's housing sector. The government's vision is for every citizen to have access to land or housing under social housing schemes by the end of his term. The Saudi Fund for Development has reaffirmed its long-standing commitment to the Maldives, with total funding now reaching $488 million. On Monday, the fund's CEO, Sultan bin Abdulrahman Al Murshid, signed a second additional loan agreement worth $18.6 million to support the expansion of Velena International Airport. Speaking at the signing ceremony, the CEO highlighted that the Saudis' fund's partnership with the Maldives began in 1978, with its first loan supporting the development of the then Male International Airport. Since then, the fund has provided 17 loans across 14 major projects in vital sectors such as transport, healthcare, housing, and fisheries, helping to drive both economic and social development. The Ministry of Finance expressed optimism that the added funding will track the airport's expansion. Once completed, the upgraded facility is expected to accommodate more airlines and tourists, significantly boosting tourism, trade, and job creation in related sectors. President Dr. Mohammad Muizz has approved a generational tobacco ban, which will prohibit the sale, purchase, and use of tobacco products for anyone born on or after January 1, 2007. The decision was made during Sunday's cabinet meeting following a proposal from the Ministry of Health. Enforcement agencies have been instructed to begin revising laws and regulations to support the rollout of the ban. A 6-month window has been given to amend and ratify the legal framework. The law is expected to come into effect on November 1, 2025. The Ministry of Finance and Planning has also been tasked with working alongside the Health Ministry to improve nationwide access to tobacco cessation services. The move follows a public poll launched by the president on his official X account, the first time a Maldivian president has used social media to crowdsource opinions on a major policy. He had earlier urged tobacco vendors to consider shifting to alternative business models. President Dr. Mohammad Muizz has reaffirmed the essential role of the Divehi language in defining and preserving Maldivian identity, describing it as relevant, as timeless, and integral across eras.
Marking Divehi Language Day, an annual observance held on 14th April, President Dr. Muiz issued a statement through social media highlighting the language's foundational significance to Maldivian culture. In his message, he characterized the Divehi language as the backbone of the nation's identity and expressed optimism regarding its ability to thrive amid societal and technological progress. The president's remarks coincided with this year's theme, Iskurana Divehi Bas, translated, "We will prioritize the Divehi language," chosen by the Divehi Language Academy to underscore the enduring importance of linguistic heritage. Since its establishment in 2015, Divehi Language Day has served as a platform for celebrating the Maldives' linguistic and cultural heritage. Under President Dr. Muiz's administration, efforts to revitalize Divehi and strengthen Maldivian nationalism have gained significant momentum. Central to these efforts is the Ministry of Divehi Language, Culture and Heritage, created to advance initiatives safeguarding the nation's identity. Among the government's projects are plans to establish a college dedicated to nationalism studies, alongside the revival of the national printing press and the formation of a research team to explore and document Maldivian heritage. Plans to deepen public appreciation for Divehi are also underway, including a nationwide awareness campaign designed to inspire love and respect for the language and its cultural legacy.
The Parliament on Monday gave the green light to President Dr. Mohammad Muiz's nominee to serve as the country's non-resident ambassador to Azerbaijan. The President had nominated Lieutenant General retired Abdul Rahim Abdul Latif, a Maldives ambassador to Turkey, to concurrently serve as the non-resident ambassador to Azerbaijan. The Parliamentary Foreign Relations Committee had earlier recommended his endorsement after a thorough review. As recommended by the committee, the Parliament unanimously endorsed the President's nominee during Monday's sitting, with 66 lawmakers voting in favor. Ambassador Abdul Rahim also serves as the non-resident ambassador to Russia. In accordance with the Foreign Service Act, the President is required to secure parliamentary approval prior to appointing ambassadors and high commissioners to the nation's foreign missions. Minister of Economic Development and Trade Mohammed Saeed has departed on an official visit to Turkey aimed at deepening economic relations between the two countries. He is accompanied by senior officials from the Economic Ministry on this three-day visit. According to the ministry, Minister Saeed is scheduled to meet with key international business leaders and Turkish counterparts to explore trade partnerships and investment opportunities. Maldives-Turkey relations have strengthened notably since President Dr. Mohammad Muiz assumed office in November 2023. His first state visit was to Turkey, where high-level discussions focused on enhancing cooperation in trade, renewable energy, higher education, and investment. The two countries have since signed a provincial trade agreement to reduce trade barriers and boost bilateral commerce. The agreement facilitates easier fish exports from the Maldives to Turkey and improves access to Turkish products for Maldivian businesses and consumers. In a key diplomatic milestone, the Maldives opened its first embassy in Ankara in February last year. Security cooperation has also advanced, with the Maldives acquiring unmanned aerial vehicles from Turkey to establish the MNDF's air wing. Turkey is also set to donate the TCG Vulcan P-343, a Dogan-class fast attack craft, under a bilateral defense agreement aimed at enhancing the Maldives' maritime security. The government of the Maldives has strongly condemned the decision by the Israeli occupation authorities to close 6 schools affiliated with the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East, UNRWA, in East Jerusalem.
In a statement issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Maldives reaffirmed its unwavering commitment to the universal right to education, a right that is firmly upheld under international human rights and humanitarian law. The statement noted that the deliberate targeting and closure of educational institutions by Israeli authorities, including schools operated by UNRWA, represents a grave violation of international legal norms and an unacceptable politicization of the education of Palestinian children. The statement further emphasized that such actions threaten the future of countless innocent students and further intensify the humanitarian crisis in the occupied Palestinian territories. The Maldives called for immediate reversal of these measures and for the protection of schools as safe spaces free from conflict and duress. Reiterating its long-standing support for the Palestinian case, the Maldives called on the international community to uphold its responsibilities and take concrete steps to hold Israel accountable for its continued violations of international law. The Maldives also reaffirmed its firm and consistent support for the just and legitimate rights of Palestinian people, including their right to self-determination and the establishment of an independent and sovereign state of Palestine based on the pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital.
A look into international business. Asian shares ended mostly higher after the White House exempted smartphones and computers from reciprocal U.S. tariffs, although caution prevailed as President Donald Trump warned levies were still likely. Japan's Nikkei added 1.9% at closing after fluctuating wildly in recent days in response to the changing tariff news. Hong Kong's benchmark Hang Seng Index rose 2.4% after an 8.5% loss last week. The Hang Seng Tech Index added 2.3%. China's blue chip CSI 300 index climbed 0.2%, while the Shanghai Composite Index had gained 0.8% by the close after losing 2.9% and 3.1% last week respectively. Taiwan's benchmark stock index erased over 2% initial gains to finish marginally lower. President Lai Ching-te said on Monday Taiwan's first phase of tariff talks with the United States went smoothly, and the government hopes to take this challenge as an opportunity to promote a new Taiwan plus the United States layout for trade. Residents in Taipei said they have felt some impact from the recent stock market fluctuations. Uncertainties about tariffs have spewed significant volatility in markets across the globe since they were unveiled by the Trump administration on April 2nd. Palestinians gather next to a large fragment of a missile launched from Yemen towards Israel after it was found in a field near Hebron in Israeli-occupied West Bank. The Israeli military said on Sunday an attempt to intercept an incoming missile launched from Yemen was likely successful after air raid sirens sounded across Israel and Jerusalem. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. Sirens could be heard in Jerusalem around 6:16 local time or 3:16 GMT. The military had initially said 2 missiles were believed to have been launched from Yemen, but shortly afterwards said only 1 had been fired. Yemen's Iranian-backed Houthi movement has launched missiles and drones at Israel since the current war in Gaza began in 2023, saying it was acting in support of Palestinians. And now a look at sports. Ducati's Marc Marquez returns to the top step of the podium with victory at the Qatar Grand Prix despite suffering damage to his bike in a collision with his brother Alex on the first lap. Marc, who had taken his 4th straight pole with a lap record as well as a 4th sprint victory on Saturday, won at the Lusail International Circuit for the first time since 2014. Red Bull KTM's Maverick Viñales was second, pending an investigation for tire pressure infringements, while Ducati's Francesco Bagnaia came third ahead of VR46 Racing's Franco Morbidelli, who briefly led the race early on. Victory moved Marc up to 123 points at the top of the riders' standings, 17 points ahead of Alex, while Bagnaia is third on 97 points. Mark had another perfect start off the line to take the lead into turn 1, but contact with Grassini Racing's Alex led to damage on the back of Mark's bike, and Morbidelli, who had started fourth on the grid, capitalized to surge into the lead. Alex did not fare any better, and the Spaniard was involved in another collision, this time with VR46 Racing's Fabio Di Gianantonio, which saw both riders lose positions. Alex immediately put his hand up to apologize, and the stewards gave him a long lap penalty that dropped him down to 12th, putting an end to any hopes of a podium, having finished second in every sprint and race this season. Bagnaia and Mark then swapped positions while battling for second, using each other's slipstream to overtake, while Viñales on the Red Bull KTM also moved up to third. But Mark was clearly struggling without one fin and another flapping loosely in the wind as Viñales outbraked the 6-time champion at turn 1 to take second place. Viñales then set his sights on Morbidelli, and the KTM rider took the lead on the main straight with 12 laps left, while Mark and Bagnaia also found their way past the yellow VR46 bike. Defending MotoGP champion Jorge Martin was competing in his first race of the season after returning from injuries, but the Aprilia rider went down at the curb on turn 11 and did not finish. Up front, Mark finally regained the lead for the first time since lap 1 when Viñales ran wide and allowed his compatriot to move up a place with 7 laps left. That was all Mark needed in the business end of the race, as he decided there was no more need to conserve his tires, setting back-to-back fastest laps to open up a gap on Viñales before cruising to the checkered flag. In Moto2, Aaron Sanet of Fantic Racing took the checkered flag, whilst Angel Piquieres, Frinza MT Helmets MSI, was victorious in Moto3. The largest fancy vivid blue diamond ever to come to auction, the Golconda Blue, was on display at Christie's in New York City. Weighing 23.24 carats, the pear-shaped gemstone will headline the auction house's magnificent jewels sale next month.
Blue diamonds have boron in them. They are electroconductive diamonds. You can run electricity through a blue diamond, but it's the boron that turns it blue. And the more boron the stone has, the darker it gets. This is a vivid blue diamond, which is the classification that the Gem Institute of America gives to the darkest blue diamonds that are ever created in nature.
India was once the world's principal producer of diamonds. Stones from the Golconda mines were known for their high degree of transparency and for their variety of colors. The blue diamond gets its color from boron. The Gem Institute of America classifies the Golconda Blue as a vivid blue diamond, Kadakia said, a name that it gives to the darkest blue diamonds that are ever created in nature.
Golconda was a very special mine in that it was the first mine known to have produced diamonds. This was before South Africa, this was before Russia, this was before Indonesia, this was before Argyle. And what's special is that most of the mines that are in production today create diamonds of a certain color. Some will create just white diamonds, some will create just pink diamonds, some create blue diamonds. Golconda created diamonds of every color under the sun.
The live sale will take place in Geneva, Switzerland on May 14 at the Four Seasons. That's all the news we have from PSM News.